Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Unscheduled podcast. I'm your host for today, Javi, and I'm joined today by my usual co-host, the usual suspect, my friend, my my brother from another mother, Zach. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. I mean, it's good to be back again. We're not dead. We're not
Yeah,
dead.
yeah. It's this is the first recording we've done in a little bit, but we're back with
Yeah.
something that was a bit of a bombshell, at least in the sphere of the sports world, Zach.
Yeah. So, okay, weirdly enough, I've kind of been off Twitter. I've been off like social media for the most
Yeah. Hmm.
for a while now. But like you messaging me this the other day, I checked it out and this is freaking wild on what's going on
Yes.
right now in the soccer league. I guess internationally, really.
Yes.
Um
So,
yeah, why don't you go ahead
uh,
and give us a background on this cuz like
yeah,
I have
absolutely.
no idea where to how to make heads or tails of this.
Yeah. So, let's just start off with the actual sort of name and game of this sort of competition. So, on April 18th, which was last Sunday, actually, it was announced that uh, the Super League was officially announced with press statements by various clubs that are involved with the league. And the European Soccer Super League. Sorry, I'm getting it mixed up. It's really easy to get them mixed up. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it is a uh, team comprised of 15 of the most historically successful teams in Europe, and and not only are they historically successful, but they are also currently, um, in sort of the strongest financially as well. And so it would be 15 founders teams, 5 teams that would qualify um, during a qualification process, which would make a 20-team league. And so this is a big deal because it is essentially a sort of not a declaration of war, but it is a sort of direct competition for the Champions League, which
Yeah.
is the premier the premier continental competition for European soccer.
Yeah. And so what I'm seeing here for those who are interested, the founding teams for those who are curious are Real Madrid, FC Barcelona, and Atletico Madrid from Spain, Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Man City, Man U, and Tottenham from England. And then we have AC Milan, Inter, and Juventus from Italy. So those are already like all big names. Like I think
Yes.
virtually with the maybe I would forgive people if they didn't recognize like Tottenham or
Yeah.
maybe Inter, but most of the time, like those names are big.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I would say Tottenham in recent years definitely deserved to be in that list. Maybe 10 to 15 years ago, maybe not, but like
Yeah,
that's kind of that's getting to like another discussion we can talk about
yeah,
later. But yeah, and then as you guys might have noticed, those are only 12 teams actually out of the 15 that were supposed to be part of the sort of founding members of this league.
right.
3 other founders clubs were supposed to be revealed at a later date, but Zach, as you already know through sort of like what's in this Google Doc that we're looking at,
Yeah,
um, this league was essentially dissected and dismantled before it could even be a thing. And
yeah, yeah,
those other 3 founders clubs were realistically sort of they're kind of lost to time. However, we actually I could not find the actual tweets or the announcements, but the 3 other teams that were supposed to be in the league were supposed to be FC Bayern Munich from Germany, Borussia
okay.
Dortmund from Germany, and then Paris Saint-Germain of France.
I
Those were
honestly,
supposed to
okay,
be
no, honestly, without even knowing anything about this, I those were I already guessed two of those teams would be part of this. I was thinking Bayern Munich because they would get
yeah,
Germany because Germany has a
yeah,
huge following and
absolutely, yeah.
powerhouse behind it, and then I was thinking PSG is probably my other guess.
Yes, and then
And
Borussia Dortmund obviously makes sense because they have a large following as well, and
yeah,
with the exception of Bayern Munich, they are concurrently probably the most recognizable and probably one of the more successful teams in Germany.
right,
Um,
right.
so it makes sense. They were trying. I think what they were trying to do here is they were trying to cover their bases with like The top five, is what they call them. So the
Yeah.
top five soccer leagues in Europe, like popularly, they're known as Spain, England. Those two usually fight it up for top, and then it's usually followed by Italy, Germany, and then usually France.
Yeah.
So they're trying to
Who
cover those bases with like all those teams.
Yeah, yeah. It's mostly Western Europe that like has the
Yeah,
biggest like.
exactly. Yeah, and so a lot of the something I actually want to sort of like talk about a little bit is
Okay.
a lot of the discourse surrounding this kind of setup here is that many of these teams, including Arsenal, Tottenham, and Liverpool, they are currently not even the best teams within their own respectful
Right.
league.
Right.
Arsenal and Tottenham are not even within European competition like qualifying places. They're both in their Arsenal and Tottenham are in ninth and seventh place respectively.
Yeah.
And then Liverpool is in sixth place. So they're not even like qualifying for the Champions League as of today, as of this recording. They're
Yeah.
not going
Yeah.
to be qualifying for the Champions League. So that has led to a lot of, sort of discussion about what exactly is, leading credence to these, teams because, if it's the best teams, then it shouldn't just be, teams that have big names and big history. It should also be teams that are concurrently the best as well. And it feels like it's a bit more lopsided towards teams that are historically great and not necessarily doing the best currently within their own competitions.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like when you look at this though, like Arsenal is a team that many people recognize.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
Like even here stateside, even if like obviously Barcelona, Madrid, and I would argue probably Chelsea are like the biggest teams over here. Maybe Manchester United, depends on where you go around.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Arsenal still gets its rep over here too. Like even Arsenal is not the greatest team. I'm a very casual follower of football and everything, but
Yes.
like to
Yeah.
what I've seen, like Arsenal gets its rep everywhere.
Yeah, no, I mean, essentially, yeah. I mean, like, I would argue, with the exception of maybe Tottenham, every team in this list has its basically global appeal. It has this global audience, I would say.
Yeah.
Teams follow AC Milan, for example, has a huge Chinese audience. Like
Mm.
it's absolutely incredible. Yeah, Real Madrid, FC Barcelona, like you mentioned, like here in the United States and also in the Americas. Well, really everywhere,
Yeah.
but like especially because like we know here in the
Yeah.
Americas, they have a huge presence as well.
Yeah.
Um,
I would argue the
and
same
then
for Atletico. Like Atletico, like as like 10, 15 years ago, Atletico I feel like wasn't as big as it is now.
yeah,
But like as recent, like it has picked up a lot of steam. It
yes,
has not stopped. That's the best way to say it. Like it just, I don't know what happened for it to gain so much popularity, but it's just picked it up and it's just not stopped running with it.
I would say that comes a lot from great investment and also the appointment of Diego Simeone, or El Cholo as he is called fondly by his fans. No, yeah, he's actually called the El Cholo. He's called well,
I
not the El
love
Cholo.
that. I
Yeah.
love that so much.
Yeah, no, honestly, it's really funny. He's let's just say, he's definitely he's not the craziest South American coach because
Yeah,
we're well aware of
we,
like
we
how
could we could have an entire podcast episode on that.
yeah, yeah, South American coaches are well known to be sort of unique. Marcelo Bielsa of Leeds United is a great example. He slight little tangent. Mentioning Marcelo Bielsa, he actually so he was sort of like accused of doing a thing where like he like kind of exposed or like he kind of like cheated per se to like by like spying on teams. And so
Okay.
and so the way he responded to this was by actually that at his next press conference, um he actually did a PowerPoint presentation on the tactics that of the team that he was going to be playing the next day.
Oh my gosh.
So he did a
Wait.
full rundown of like what they were like like the lineup he thought they were gonna play, like what tactic they do, like what like each player was gonna be doing during the match, all of that stuff. It was absolutely insane. But yeah, that's a short little anecdote of how crazy it is. But yeah, no, getting back to sort of the teams as a whole, all these teams are instantly recognizable, even if you're not like a huge uh, like even if you don't necessarily follow the leagues themselves too closely, the Premier League teams, Real Madrid, Barcelona, AC Milan, Inter, Juventus, all basically, very strong brands, at least I would say. So
Okay.
what's up?
So this is what I want to know, because I see that like a lot of okay, so as going through this, like going through what you sent me, it looked like there was a lot of stuff that like, so as we're going through this, obviously this plan has not flown. Like it is not, it is
Yeah.
just, it like you said, it is dead in the water right now before, like
Yes.
it died before it even got off the ground.
Yes.
My question is, who got upset? That's what I want to
Uh,
know more than anything.
that is an oversight from me, but essentially it was a mixture of UEFA, FIFA, and their respective leagues, presidents and their sort of respective like also sponsors as well. So like the sponsors that were involved with the Super League removed themselves, like they distanced themselves away from the project as well. So that's what
Yeah.
kind of that was the strongest sort of thing that pushed this thing to, sort of be suspended. And we'll talk about that a little bit more because, like I mentioned for the podcast, this thing is not dead. It is still
Yeah.
like it's not walking and breathing per se. It's like it's on life support basically,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it still has a chance to sort of come to fruition.
Okay.
But we'll talk about that a little bit more.
Okay.
But
Because
yeah,
here's my thing. So like, okay, so how did fans respond to this? That's what I want to know more than anything.
it
Because
was yeah. So did I put it in here? Let me actually check this. I don't know if I put it. Let's see. Sorry, I can't remember if I. Okay, yeah. So I did put something like it. So there was a video of so under the reactions. I'm sorry for people that are just listening. Obviously, you don't get to see the actual Google Doc, so you
yeah,
can't see
yeah,
like what I'm talking about. But under reactions and anecdotes, there's a link that says video Chelsea fans outside of Stamford Bridge celebrating the news that Chelsea will be withdrawn from the ESL. So, during a Chelsea match from this past week, Chelsea fans were actually protesting the European Soccer League. It must have been on April 20th actually, because I
yeah,
think
yeah,
that's when all of the Premier League teams resigned from this project. So
yeah.
the Chelsea fans actually were outside of the stadium, and they actually were protesting this. It got to the point where Peter Cech, who you may recognize as the former Chelsea goalkeeper, actually had to come outside and actually kind of calm them down a little bit.
Like,
That's kind
yeah,
of yeah.
like that's what I want to know. Why are fans upset? Because in my head, it's like, and I say this as a very casual fan.
Okay.
Like in my head, this is just more football to watch. Like this is even
Yeah.
more to see. I don't get what the problem is here.
So here's my perspective as somebody who is like a kind of invest in this a little bit.
Yeah,
So um as I mentioned, or actually I didn't mention this. So basically the way this would work out is um these teams would be playing midweek. As you know, most club competition games for the domestic leagues are played on the weekends, right, Zach? Like you know that.
yeah, yeah. Of
Yeah.
course, yeah,
And so these teams would be playing exclusively during midweek, and then these teams will be going back to the weekend to play whoever, right?
yeah,
Um the issue there are various like logistical issues with this, but like one of like the so as to answer your question, why fans were angry about this,
yeah,
um, it's a mixture of a few things. So there's it's the sense of exclusion and also superiority from these teams. As I've mentioned before, um, a team that calls itself super should have the best teams, and many
right.
people felt well, these teams, yes, they're like many are like still good and they're still historically great. But like what a lot of people point to, like I said, like Arsenal, Liverpool, and Tottenham, they are not concurrently the best teams in England. If you wanted to go that route, a team like Leicester, who is currently in the Champions League spots, would be much more deserving. But because of the fact that Leicester is not as profitable or not as strong of a brand as, let's say, like Liverpool, obviously, um,
Yeah,
it is it points towards another aspect of this that is sort of not problematic. I don't want to use that word, but
yeah,
it definitely it's a cause for concern. is that these teams are not breaking away from the domestic league to form their own league. And you
Okay.
might say to yourself, well, that's good. Yeah, that's good. But here's the problem with that. These teams are all they're all, I can't remember the exact figure, but they were all guaranteed, I believe, upwards of 300 million euros each season. Okay.
That is quite the pretty penny right there.
I believe that's the figure. I mean, I can look back at this and maybe I'll add a
Yeah,
note in post production, but
of course.
it's something around those lines. So not only are they getting this money from the Super League, but they're also still getting the money from their own respective leagues. And if they're in the Champions League,
They get even
right,
more money on top of
they
that.
get even more money. And then to go with that, it's it totally you know there's already such a huge disparity between these teams financially and the teams that like are not included, right?
Okay.
So
Okay, I get it. I get it. So it's more
yeah,
like it's kind of like for lack of a better term, it's kind of like the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer there, for lack of a better
e-
term.
precisely, yeah.
Okay. 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 So I can see why people would be upset with that. I guess overall, like I get why people are upset. I'm still trying to wrap my head around this entire thing. So there are parts like I don't entirely have an opinion on this because I
Yeah, yeah.
barely understand what's going on.
No, that's totally fair, and I hope by the end of this you understand a little bit more.
Yeah,
Um,
because just off the initial reports of what I'm understanding,
yeah,
to me it's a little bit more of like, so when we first talked about this, we obviously FIFA stepped in
yeah.
and like a couple of the other leagues and stuff, and they all, because FIFA is pretty much a monopoly on soccer. That does not go.
That is definitely part of the discourse, and that was like part of like the other side is like, well, FIFA and UEFA are not really great organizations either. They are obviously like profiting off of these teams as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like, and I'm not denying that either. Like
Right, right.
I'm not a FIFA fan. I'm a fan of soccer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get
I'm
that.
not a
I get
UEFA
that. And
fan.
it's like,
Yeah.
but it's like when you look at every single league, it's under FIFA. No matter what league it is,
Yes.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
at least any league, that people watch at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
There are a couple leagues here and there that exist, but they're very local and FIFA has not touched them.
Yes.
But they're
So they're.
also very poor as well, like
I.
financially compared to FIFA.
Mhm. Yeah.
And
It's funny. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
and I'm just looking at this like, and like I'm trying to get both sides of this because I'm trying to understand this at all. But it's like
Mhm.
in my head when I first read this report, I'm like, okay, this makes sense. These are teams who are trying to break away from FIFA altogether because
Mhm.
FIFA has a massive history of being corrupt.
Yes.
Like if you
Yes.
guys want
Let's not.
anything, I highly recommend watching the John Oliver videos on FIFA and its corruption and
Mm,
just how problematic it was. We'll probably
yeah.
link that in the description below. But
Yeah. I'll make a note of that actually. Yeah.
but like they are problem incarnate, FIFA just overall. And there is a giant list of things that it's a problem with them from top to bottom. And there is no, like, to me, FIFA is one of the embodiments of corruption when it comes to sports leagues. Like there's no denying that. But at the same time, it's like that's why I was like in my head, okay, these leagues are trying to break away from this corruption, but at the same
Hello?
time they're still playing under FIFA. Okay, so following where we were talking about with John Oliver, like FIFA is like the embodiment of corruption in my head. Like there's no
Yeah.
denying that.
Mhm.
But it's like these teams are trying to break away from this corrupt organization, but at the same time they're still playing for it. So now that's kind of like I'm starting to put this puzzle together on like, okay, maybe they're trying to do too much now. That's like they're trying to pick up too much
It's
here.
it's for me, it's a bit of like they're trying to get, they're trying to have their cake and eat it as well a little bit.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
they're trying to, sort of break away, but they're also still want that support as well. And that can't really that's not sustainable either. Like um uh so Florentino Perez, he's done quite a bit of sort of like PR work. He's been trying to do some damage control a little bit. Like he's been trying to reiterate, no, this is like still alive. Um, a lot of a big thing because like he's done so much. Like I'm not even kidding. Like it seemed like he was doing like an interview like a day essentially. From when it was announced.
Yeah.
But one of the common threads within like what he was trying to say was, we are doing this because of the pandemic. We are doing this because these clubs are losing revenue, and we are doing this because we believe that soccer needs to evolve as a sport. And I don't necessarily disagree with the idea that teams need to cover their losses. I'm not disagreeing with the idea that
Yeah.
they want to sort of make sure that like these clubs stay alive and stuff like that. But keep in mind, Zach, these teams are Barcelona, Real Madrid, Premier League teams, Serie A, Italy. Like, these are not the teams that are in danger of being liquidated and
Right,
being
right, yeah. That's what I was gonna cover actually right now. Like that's where I'm having a problem here. Is like they literally said we're trying to make up for lost revenue. I'm like, what lost revenue? Like these teams could suffer. They could have a like Barca, Real Madrid. All these teams could go on like a 5-year losing streak, maybe even a decade. Honestly, some of them are kind of on that already. That's a different
Mhm.
story.
Yeah.
And they still profit, like arguably, potentially billions of dollars.
Yes, from stadium, well, not stadium, but like once team players, fans are allowed to come into stadiums again. Jersey
Yeah.
sales, TV rights,
Yeah,
sponsorships.
yeah. Okay, so
These
now I'm understanding at least from a public viewpoint why people would be upset at this.
like these are not the teams that have to worry about that. These are the
No.
teams that are most well equipped to survive this, if anything. We should be
Yeah.
worrying about teams in lower leagues and teams that are, actually at risk, because there have been a couple of teams within the past few years that actually have, had or have been on the brink of bankruptcy, and they've had to declare bankruptcy to sort of save themselves, or they've opened themselves up to the public in order for fans to actually buy out the team. A good example of this is Real Oviedo, who is actually now a majority.
Yeah.
I believe they're either majority fan owned, or a good portion of their shares are owned by fans and
Yeah.
general public of the city of Oviedo. So those are the teams that have to worry about this. There's the ones that are like maybe like, oh yeah, we need to like look towards the future.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm just like I'm looking at all of this right now and I'm just like the more I read this and the more I understand the situation, the more I see like this guy Dermot Corrigan just seems to be shooting himself in the foot more and more.
no, so what I've linked, Dermot Corrigan is a reporter. He is
Yeah.
reporting on what Florentino Perez is saying.
Okay. Okay,
Florentino
there we
Perez,
go.
yeah,
Okay, there we go. Okay,
yeah,
now that makes okay, so let me correct
no,
my statement.
yeah,
Florentino Perez then is shooting himself in the foot the more he like tries to talk about.
yes. So do you want to talk about that section I have highlighted as the
Yeah.
Florentino
Because
gig?
this is where I'm seeing
Okay,
like this is where I'm getting like the true fan reactions as well as like a couple profile
yeah,
people here and there. Obviously, sports commentators, stuff like
yeah.
that.
Yeah, so to reiterate, all of this is from Dermot Corrigan, who is a reporter based in Spain, specifically Madrid. He covers Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid extensively, but we'll be looking at his tweets and kind of
Yeah.
getting the basis, because he is quoting Florentino from the show he did from, I believe the show was called El Laguero, which
Hmm.
is a Spanish broadcast. So yeah, so let's look at this first tweet, or this first quote. I'm a bit so this is from Florentino Perez, the Real Madrid president and president of the European Super League. Sorry.
Yeah.
I am a bit sad, disappointed. We have been working 3 years on this project and fighting the current financial situation in Spanish football. It is easy to understand. You cannot touch the Liga, so you look for more money midweek, and the UCL format is obsolete.
Yeah. Okay. So like I mean, there is some truth to what's in this as a whole.
Yeah.
But there's
Hmm.
also ways I feel like that could have been that could have handled this much better than the way it was.
Yeah. So that's something he also touches on. So we'll look at this.
Yeah.
So let's look at this one right here. The English clubs tried to do something, but they were being told they were killing football. But there is no other solution than the Super League, or somebody else might come up with a solution. So, um, to me personally, this reeks a bit of sort of like a savior complex from Florentino.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
we don't come up with a solution to this problem, this thing that is a problem in Florentino's head. Because let's step back a little bit and like actually look at this.
Yeah.
What Florentino is saying is he is making a broad claim that these teams are like at risk from his perspective, from the perspective of a fan and anybody who can like actually look at what these teams do and how much revenue they get, they're fine.
Right.
So it really begs the question of what exactly would be an acceptable revenue for a team like Real Madrid in the context of the pandemic and after post-pandemic revenue and stuff like that.
Right.
So it really does sort of make you question how much of this is actually based on goodwill from Paris to say, yeah, we need to make sure that this sport is still interesting and entertaining by providing the most popular teams with the revenue they need to sort of sustain themselves, and how much of it is just we need to cover our own asses here with this Super League and make sure that we're not going out of business. You know what I mean?
Right. And I feel like he's not entirely addressing the problems people are talking about here. Like, he's not talking about like how much money they're going to be going out for, or how much they are just kind of like, they are essentially inflating themselves for an even higher price by creating this league, to what I'm understanding now.
Yes. So here's another quote from him where he directly talks about the sort of financial impact that the coronavirus has had. So we are just working on saving football after this pandemic. Madrid income is falling from 900 million euros to 600 million this year. We have worked very hard on something that would satisfy everyone, and we did expect such a response.
Okay,
So
go ahead.
No, what I was just gonna say is like, so what the important thing about this is like, he's talking about the fact that Real Madrid is at a loss of 300 million euros this year, projected at least. The year's not over, but they are projected at 300 million euro loss this year. And according to him, they were working on a solution that would actually satisfy everyone involved in this. But yeah, what were we gonna say, Zach?
I mean, it's like, to me, realistically looking at this though, that's not a massive loss in terms of like money for like, let me and this is me, okay, I'm gonna already put a disclaimer on this. This is me being slightly ignorant of how much money players can make.
Okay.
But
okay.
with how much money they're losing this year, to me that sounds like money they would spend already on like 3 like all-star level players. Which
So
there aren't not every player is getting all-star level pay. Like every team has a maximum of like 3 all-star level players. That's to be argued.
Yeah.
And that's if they hit 3. Usually it's 1, maybe 2.
Yeah, so I definitely see what you're trying to say there. I will say that I will kind of confirm your suspicion. 600 million euros. If a team was paying 600 million euros to players in salary, that would be catastrophic. That would actually be not good at all. That would not be okay. Uh, like a one like a really like a let's talk about like a I believe Messi, just from his salary. Well, actually, I can actually just look this up real quick.
Yeah, because and I'm not saying this is like 1 year of them being paid. This is over a lifetime of them being played.
Yeah. So to kind of give you context, this year Messi will make 71 million euros, but that's Messi, right?
Right.
That's Messi.
That is literally the #1 player in all of FIFA right now.
So yeah, no, it's definitely not like like 600 million would not cover it would more than cover like let's say Madrid's finances, because nobody on Madrid is making nearly that much. But yes, so like, but to kind of like go back to it, I totally agree with you. Like 600 million euros is more than enough to cover this team. You're not wrong in that. You're not ignorant about that part. Like 600, like 900 million is already really good. Like 600 million.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like the 300 million loss is maybe money to me in my head they would have already spent on all-star players over, again, a lifetime of them.
Yes. And actually, that's a really good thing you bring up because that's another quote I meant to put in this. Is he actually mentioned the fact so Real Madrid have been heavily linked with Erling Haaland, who is a 20-year-old striker from Borussia Dortmund, and Kylian Mbappe from PSG. And
Yeah.
one of the things he Florentino said is, we cannot buy Mbappe or Haaland without the Super League. So that also reveals another layer of this sort of Super League kind of like this like it reveals a little bit more of the purpose of the Super League a little bit because as you kind of alluded to, um 300 million give or take is what probably would be kind of like that would be the value of those two players combined essentially.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting honestly. So yeah, no, to me personally, I have to personally call BS on the idea that a 300 million loss from Madrid is devastating because like it's as simple as it's Real Madrid. Like at the end of the day,
Yeah.
it's Real Madrid.
Let's be honest. Real Madrid, once this pandemic is over, I guarantee will make back twice that money. Hands down.
Yes, because as we already know, and well, as many people are predicting, post-pandemic sort of like social sort of like engagement and like sort of like interaction and like going to stadiums, going to like concerts, going to like restaurants, going to public spaces and stuff like that is going to probably like boom, right? Like a year, like more than a year of like people mostly staying inside and not going to concerts, not going to the beach or stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's going to bring a huge boom of sort of like income for these organizations. So
Right.
absolutely, yeah. Like after the pandemic, you like they'll see like these people are still it's not like okay. Actually, I was gonna say the Santiago Bernabeu like it's still gonna be there, but technically they're working on a new stadium, so I'm kind of wrong about that. So
Okay.
um
But
but
the
yeah,
point
like
is, they're still going to be able to watch games and stuff.
yes, absolutely, yeah,
And and
like yeah,
and here's the other thing. Let's keep this in mind. Here's the other thing. Like we they're claiming they're going to want to make up this lost revenue. And the easiest way they're going to do that, like hands down without even like essentially without caring what the public thinks in a way. They're going to raise the price of tickets. Like let's say last year it was 80 euros to go watch a game. I guarantee you it'll be like 100 euros, 120, and these are, considering like average decent seats
yeah,
that they
yeah.
will now charge to go watch that game because in their minds then they're trying to make up for all the lost revenue in games they've essentially lost for let's say 2 years.
And even then, like I don't know, like actually like the official one, but like let's say like 100 revenues, 100 euro, like you said, that would still be great value for like a team like Real Madrid. You know what I mean? Like for a single like ticket, absolutely. So it's like and like you said, like there's still a market. Like it's not like because of the pandemic, people don't want to watch soccer anymore. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah, if
Like
not,
it's
if anything, people want to watch it more now because of the pandemic. Like people are deprived of sports. Like we've seen kind of the effects of sports even here in our own area because we have a bunch of local teams as well as a bunch of
yeah.
sports around here that are going through their own suffrage and like we've seen the fumbles and mistakes all of them have made trying to get their money back.
Yes, yeah. I mean, like for me personally, as a fan, like someone who is like an avid like enjoyer of like going to stadiums and being there with the fans and like actually watching my team on the field, like I can guarantee you that feeling is still felt by the millions, if not like almost billion of people who love going to like, just watch their team or just watching
Yeah,
soccer in general.
yeah,
It's like he's talking about this like Florentino Perez is talking about this like as if like, the World Cup or something like that is not like it's still not doing like great numbers or like people are
right,
not watching the
right,
Champions League.
yeah.
It's preposterous in my opinion.
And like the thing is these things happen, they're a constant year-round thing for these leagues too. If we were comparing
Yes.
this more a little bit to like how the Olympics are going to happen right now and how like
Yes.
they're
Yeah.
losing a massive amount of money overall, okay, that's a different story altogether because that
Mhm.
happens every 4 years And these are a variety of sports that some obviously don't even get that much exposure unless you watch through the Olympics. And, you know, the local area benefits. But when you watch the World Cup, obviously you could compare the World Cup to the Olympics. But at the same time, like, you're still getting, like, football year round and constant other leagues going on, too. So,
Absolutely.
like,
You bring up a great point.
and those areas usually already have their own, like, you know, semi-close to, you know, local football teams. So they're not going to rely as much, not as much on the, like, you know, tourist revenue, all that, people coming in and stuff, as, you know, the Olympics would. But at the same time, on top of that, there's something here that I'm seeing that Perez is saying that, like, I want to address because there is some truth to it, but it's also not in the best light that presents it. So his quote here...
Okay.
His quote here is, if Nadal plays Federer, people watch. If Nadal plays the 80th ranked tennis player, nobody watches. And, you know, that does make sense. That does make sense. But the thing is, he's comparing also two roughly different sports. Tennis is obviously a lot more of, like, you have these solo players who rise to greatness. You know, it is a more solo effort. But when it comes to teams, you know, the playing field is very different amongst teams because you have all these teams from different areas. So, like, if Barca plays, you know, let's say a lower team who's out in France, that does great for everyone because not only does it expose the other team, you know, and the same for Federer in this case, you expose the other player. But if they lose to that other team or a person or whatever, suddenly things get changed around and, you know, and the playing field shifts.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like that. But the problem is here, it's like, if you say, oh, why should I give exposure to this person or, like, to these other teams, you know, the money gets very unbalanced. And again, it's very different when it's teams, when you have multiple teams in one area, you know, trying to get attention. But, you know, like, suddenly you have like other, but if you only focus on one team, the other teams are just going to get no money, and that also hurts the local areas. You can't say the same for an industry.
Yeah, and so, sort of to add on to your idea of, like, the, you know, whole you know, like, playing against smaller teams. This quote is directly referencing the idea of, like, Real Madrid, let's say, like, for example, playing against, like, Levante, who is a Spanish team in the first division of Spanish soccer. Is obviously that he's right. Yeah, like, that game is not going to get as much views as a game between Real Madrid versus PSG, or Real Madrid versus like that. But part of what makes a Real Madrid versus PSG, for example, so special is that those two teams usually will not play against each other unless they meet a certain amount of, you know, requirements. So the first requirement is actually playing in the Champions League, right, or playing in the Europa League, or play in the continental competition, right?
Right.
The second requirement is that usually PSG and Real Madrid are not put in the same. Actually, it's funny. 2 years ago, they actually were in the same group, but that's besides the point. But usually, they're not in the same group because usually they're either in the second or first place, respectively. And so usually those teams would meet each other later on in the sort of bracket for the Champions League. And that's part of what makes it so special, right? It's like these teams are, like, not playing against each other every year. They're not playing against each other, you know, every week or even every month, right?
Yeah, of course.
That's part of what adds to the illusion and the mysticism of playing in the Champions League, is that these are supposed to be the best teams from each league in Europe. And so when you get to the certain point where it's, Real Madrid versus PSG, that's what makes it so special. And another sort of layer to this is the idea is, like you kind of mentioned before, every team kind of has their superstar or that player people look up to within their area or by international fans, right? So that is the draw. That is also part of the draw-in, right? Like, let's say Real Madrid plays against, let's say, what's a good example? Let's say they play against Real Betis. Real Betis is not, like, you know, universally known as, like, a great team, but they play great soccer. They have a great playing style, and they also have a player called Nabil Fekir, who is wonderful. He has great dribbling ability, and that also could be the draw-in for some people as well. So
Right.
and then not only is it part of that, but this is also a complete disdain for the fans of those teams from the lower leagues, right? It's like almost saying like they don't matter, right? Like we don't want your views. We want people from all around the world to watch us,
Right.
and
Right.
we don't want other Spanish people from other Spanish teams to watch us.
Right.
We want people from South America, North America, from
Uh,
Asia, from Africa to watch us.
right.
You know,
Yeah.
we want
Like
that market.
I'm agreeing with what you're saying earlier. Like, had this been a bunch of other lower teams who formed this league, like let's say the teams who are maybe not breaking the top 5 in their divisions, or are not even maybe even breaking the top 10, or just the less known leagues and stuff. If they broke off and made this like as it's being made now, I would tell you that's perfect, because in reality, that's giving them exposure. That's not expecting you to suddenly go after like, oh, where's Barca in this league and stuff like that. It's more of
Right.
like,
Right.
here are a bunch of teams you may have never heard of, but that doesn't mean they don't play good ball or anything.
Right. Absolutely. No, I definitely see where you're coming from. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, but I do want to round off the Florentino discussion and what he said in his interview with this quote that was probably for me one of the most eye-opening and probably one of the most sort of um revealing aspects of this sort of
Yeah.
and also the meaning of this interview. So here's what he said: a big guy wears a big suit, a small guy wears a small suit. Everyone has to be comfortable with the suit they wear, and the reality comes from the TV viewer figures. This is not capricious. I am just trying to help. So, what he's trying to say with that sort of quote is that the big teams are where they are because they are big teams and they do big team things, right? And the small teams are small because they don't generate the revenue. They are not winning, league titles, and they are not bringing in the most fans to the stadiums, or they're not bringing in the most revenue, right? And so he's basically saying is like, the Super League is kind of a reaffirmation of, these teams are where they are because of, because they are the biggest teams in the league, and
Yeah.
they deserve to be there. And then like, the smaller teams should be comfortable with the fact that they're small teams. Now, just from a meritocratic standpoint from this, that is complete bullshit in my opinion.
Yeah.
That is absolutely ridiculous because part of the illusion, part of the sort of appeal of soccer is that teams like Leicester City, right, who won the Premier League in 2016, they would not be part of this league because they are not one of the more profitable teams and they're not one of the more well-known ones. They are more well-known because the Premier League format allows it so that a team like Leicester, who was not even the Premier League, they were in the fourth division 10 years ago. They can actually win the Premier League and they can get those earnings. And now they actually are regularly, getting into the Champions League. So
Right.
it's like,
Right.
so it's cutting off the potential for teams like a Leicester City to appear in the future. You're essentially making it so that Arsenal keeps on being Arsenal, or Arsenal, reinvents itself and starts becoming good again. Because like, I'm sorry, this is not like an anti-Arsenal podcast. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, guys.
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't know where it's coming from, but like, Arsenal's the example in this case. Like, they're not like the
Arsenal
best right now.
Arsenal is an embodiment of like name of how much people will pay for a name. Like that
Yeah.
that's kind of the embodiment, right? And that's nothing against Arsenal. It's just kind of how the numbers and stats have lined up, right?
Yes, absolutely. So,
I-
oh, sorry, were you gonna say something?
No, I'm just like, I'm looking at this and I'm like, the more I read on this and the more I'm understanding this, like I'm realizing, yeah, these teams have really messed up in how they were going about this.
Yes. So for
And
me
so it's like,
personally, yeah. Yep.
before, like on a surface level of trying to understand this, at first I was for the teams doing this because I thought they were breaking away from FIFA. Like that's what it pretty much
No.
sounds like. These
Yeah,
teams
yeah.
are physically breaking away from FIFA, which I personally believe there are teams that need to do that anyway. Like they just need to break away from FIFA altogether. But that's a whole different discussion we could have.
Yeah.
But there's also like, but now that I'm understanding this, I'm like, no, this is clearly too much angling for certain teams. And so I was gonna bring this up. I was looking at like the responses from the teams and how they're now pulling out. Like many of the teams have pulled out at this point.
Yes. Yeah.
And so it's like Arsenal's already apologized, Chelsea's apologized, Atletico Madrid is, we were talking about it before we started recording the podcast, that like they were kind of neutral on this. Like they're like, if this goes through, cool. If not, if this doesn't go through, hey, we're sorry. We thought we were doing good. And then Chelsea's just like, yeah, no, we're done. We're not going to do this.
Yeah. Chelsea Chelsea was like the first team that was reported to like be in the process of withdrawing from the Super League.
Yeah,
so
which in reality, like in the reality of it all, that's pretty smart on their part. Like just looking at it, that is very smart on their part. I was just gonna say, like the other teams I've looked at here, just looking at this, it's like you have Man City, who I'm just gonna be honest, to put it out there, like kind of having Man City go with you is a bit of a rough patch in itself because of their current history. Like it's just more of a and you know, this isn't really like taking a shot as the team as a whole. I'm just like, the club and foundation itself has not exactly been the most reputable as of late, and the fact that they're going along with this, I feel like it just adds a little bit more dirt already on top of this, like this like garbage that we're looking at. So I don't know, maybe from my casual standpoint, I'm just going to put this out there, I think these teams would have literally been better off breaking away from FIFA and making their own league. Like,
do you think FIFA would let them though?
Genuinely, I know Barca has already tried. Tried.
Not from FIFA. They were
not from FIFA, but like Barca already is like, Barca's had its own like there's its. If we analyze Barca, we'd have to go into a lot more things that are outside of Barca from like that. But I think if people, if they, depending on how they marketed it as, it's like saying, hey, we're breaking away from FIFA, but we're still playing, you know, as your local team and everything, I feel like it would definitely become a more controversial thing. But, and in my opinion, I feel like it would be much better because, again, FIFA has too much of a monopoly on it. And, you know, it would take big teams like these to break away from FIFA to, you know, have their own like, you know, league and be able to stand up to FIFA and stuff like that. But, you know, that's a whole different discussion for a different podcast and stuff. But that's just on a casual standpoint, that's how it looks like to me, that it would have been better had they literally just broken off from. But creating this Super League, like it really does it's now really showing like how tilted it is for teams right now who are at the top and teams who are just, you know, just trying to scrape by.
That's one of the biggest like things that we should come away with this. Is like these teams were essentially trying to solidify their positions, while many teams are sort of like flailing in current positions. But that's so that's it for the Florentino kind of stuff. I want to talk a little bit more about the actual sort of things that have happened as a result of the Super League and its subsequent like suspension. So one of the things that came out of this was actually Ed Woodward, who is the current chairman for, not the chairman, sorry, he is the sort of director for Manchester United. He announced that he would be leaving his role at the end of 2021, and that was due to his involvement in this Super League scheme.
Which I guess, I mean, that makes sense. Like, obviously, he's trying to save face. He's trying to like leave before he gets, you know, thrown to the wolves, for lack of a better term.
And then a big part of the sort of thing that people are talking about is like, yes, this is good that, you know, because Ed Woodward is notably not the smartest, like he's not made the smartest decisions, and he's part of the reason why Manchester United is not like, has not maintained their like sort of dominance in the Premier League. Like you could also attribute that a little bit to, you know, Manchester City becoming good, but also his arrival has not really helped them in, you know, winning a title, or like maintaining their dominance, because like any time he's been there, Manchester City have won way more Premier League than Manchester United have won like any. So so that was one thing. So but like one of the things that came out of this was, as you'll note, Joel Glazer, who was part of this Super League scheme as well, he was actually the chairman. He was one of the vice chairman on this Super League kind of committee, and he is actually Manchester United, the actual Manchester United chairman, and
Yeah.
so he is part of one of the bigger like sort of influences in how Manchester United is run. I think he was heavily involved in the appointment of Ed Woodward. And what a lot of Manchester United fans have noted is like it's good that Ed Woodward is leaving, but he's only like one of like the people from the front office that should be like really be gone. And Joel Glazer and his brother, who is also he is the co-chairman as well of Manchester United, they should also be gone because they were much more directly involved in this Super League kind of invention as opposed to, let's say, Ed Woodward. So yeah,
I mean, I doubt we're gonna see anything happen. I doubt we're gonna really see anything happen. Like, we're probably not gonna be seeing too much punishment. Like, I'm looking at this and they're literally saying, hey, like the Spanish league teams are not gonna be punished, which is unfortunate, really. Like,
it's in my opinion, it's atrocious that they're not going to.
And you know, I feel like there should be some sort of sanction on them or something at this point. But you know, I feel like that also just shows you how much power those teams have as well.
Yeah.
Because like, okay, this is not the first time Barca's been in hot water. Let's be clear about that. This is not the first time. It probably won't be the last.
Yeah.
But, you know, showing them like they keep dodging these bullets essentially, and you know, the fact that they're saying, oh, you know, their reputation being damaged enough is going to do enough. Not really. No,
absolutely
like I get it. Okay, it makes sense. You know, you get that they are, you know, their reputation is kind of damaged, but 5 years from now, no one's gonna remember that.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so there has to be some more punishment to this level. You know, honestly, barring them from even entering the UEFA would be an idea, you know, or, you know,
that's the thing that was discussed. Yes. Yeah.
But like the whole point is, it's like, again, these teams hold so much power, and the fact that they can't really be punished for pulling a stunt like this, again, shows just how tilted like this Super League would have been.
Yeah, because you know, La Liga needs these three teams, right? They absolutely need them because Atletico Madrid has been one of the stronger competitors against Real Madrid and Barcelona, obviously, and so that provides revenue as well. And then, you know, like I said, Barcelona and Real Madrid are who they are. They make they make money that, you know,
they are multi-billion-dollar clubs.
These teams have no business sort of complaining or really even like sort of you know, worrying about their financial security, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So it's ridiculous. But I understand that Javier Tebas, who is the Liga president, he's probably coming from a place of like, we need these teams, and if we say, oh, we're going to deduct points and stuff like that, it'll just cause even more of a conundrum. But you need to have that sacrifice, in my opinion.
There needs to be someone held accountable for this. Like, I will not be surprised if we see by end of this year, by maybe next year, Perez steps down, depending on where this all goes.
Oh, Zach, that's funny you mentioned that, because literally this week, it was this week or last week, he was, it wasn't even an election because nobody ran against him, but he was appointed the president of Real Madrid for the next 4 years.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah.
Oh my god.
Nobody ran against him, which also kind of weird. It's probably it's kind of suspicious. You know, nobody ran against him.
No.
It's not like there's any shortage of you know, people that want to be president of Real Madrid. You know, but you know, that's a discussion for another day. But yes, no. I highly doubt that, you know, Perez is going to have. He's not going to face any real, you know, repercussions for this. I mean, I said,
which really sucks. What you know,
like I said,
No, that really sucks. But I mean, so it's kind of up now to the fans to decide how much punishment the teams are going to get. And, you know, unfortunately, they're not going to do much to the teams. Like, no one's going to go boycott watching these teams. I can guarantee that. As much as I hate to say that, people are not going to boycott these teams.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. But yeah, so
I
there's
will give credit though where credit is due. I like how the Premier League is handling this. It may
yes,
seem extreme, but I like how the Premier League is handling this.
yes. So to read this out to listeners and viewers, the quote is: Premier League is working on a new set of rules that would expel any team that attempts to join a Super League in the future. Part of the reason why I think it's huge is because like this, I definitely think this legislation needs to pass within the Premier League because as you saw, 6 out of the 12 teams in that Super League, in the founding members, were Premier League teams. Like those teams provide huge revenue. They would have provided huge revenue. So
Yeah,
by sort of already cutting off the teams from England and the Premier League, you're already essentially like you know uh really really sort of like removing a lot of the appeal from the Super League because if the top teams from the Premier League are not there, it's already cutting out a huge market.
yeah, yeah. I mean, really, that's what it is, and it's like the fact that is that they're making this legislation shows to me that no one's going to get any special favors either.
Yeah.
Like, no
No.
one would be immune to this, and I'm hoping that passes. So we'll see what happens with it.
Yeah, exactly. So so for record, it's any Premier League team. It's not just the 6 teams that tried to join. It's any team that would like
Yeah, what?
in the future, let's say like I say, like let's say like Leicester City gets to the point where they're as recognizable as like Liverpool or something like that.
Yeah,
They also would not be able to, join in this nonsense,
yeah,
right?
exactly. Like
So
10, 15 years down the line, like this, like it would not surprise me if like a decade from now we see this attempt again. It would not
yeah.
surprise me. So
I
if
mean,
they
like I said,
pass this, like this would be really good.
yeah, and like I said, like we 10 years might not have to be, we don't have to wait that long because like I said, this is still not there as of yet. It's still not
Yeah.
like officially. It's like I said, Barcelona doubled down on this and say they still believe in the project, but
So yeah,
they're
that's
not
what I
like
wanted to cover. Like Barca is just surrounded in controversy as of the last few years, to what I've seen, from one level to the next.
yeah. So you want to discuss that a little bit
And
more?
yeah, and so it's like this is what I was gonna say. It's like it surprised me honestly that Barca doubled down on this, especially with the backlash that they've been getting
Mm,
on this. Like you would think this like team that's been supposedly so ground to earth with its fans and has
yeah,
always connected with its area
yeah,
would ditch at the first sign of trouble, but no, they went the exact opposite, and I feel like that kind of shows really where the club's loyalty truly lies.
yeah.
So, and keep in mind though, I want to say this like as kind of a disclaimer for everything. When we're talking about these teams, we're not talking about the actual players. We're talking about the clubs and the boards and like
Yeah,
the organizations
exactly.
that handle them.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's
Because
I think that's the final thing I wanted to cover with you. How are the players reacting? Because
so yeah,
unfortunately, they're in the crossfire. No matter what they do, they're caught in the crossfire.
yeah. So we can actually take a look at that. I put a few sort of reactions in a sort of section here. So we have the first player who is notable was Ander Herrera, who is a midfielder for Paris Saint-Germain or PSG. He was one of the first players to openly protest the European Soccer League, and I can read out his statement right here. Um, I fell in love with popular football, with the football of the fans, with the dream of seeing the team of my heart compete against the greatest. If this European Soccer League advances, those dreams are over. The illusions of the fans of the teams that are not giants of being able to win on the field, competing in domestic competitions will end. I love football, and I cannot remain silent about this. I believe in an improved Champions League, so that's an important bit. He believes
Yeah,
in a revised sort of revision to an existing format, but not in the rich stealing what the people created, which is nothing other than the most beautiful sport on the planet. And this is a sentiment that is echoed by many of the players who have said, who have made statements about this European Soccer League. It is it is also about the idea of that it's like what many of the players are kind of alluding to is that these executives are trying to wrestle away even more power away from the fans
yeah,
in what happens at the top level of the sport.
yeah,
So that's kind of what is the general consensus for many of these players is. And then so one of the most notable players from one of the European Soccer League teams that would have been in the competition, Jordan Henderson, the captain of Liverpool. Okay, mention. We'll talk. We'll mention. Well, I have to highlight that he's the captain. He published a graphic condemning this European Soccer League, and this is also posted alongside with some of his teammates. And I can read it out. We don't like it, and we don't want it to happen. This is our collective position. So he's alluding to the fact that all of the players are against this. Our commitment to this football club and its supporters is absolute and unconditional. And then he ends it off with the famous quote that Liverpool is known for: "You will never walk alone." So
Nice.
So I think that is a fantastic statement because it's very short and concise, but it is very clear. The players all of the players on the team are against this idea. It actually, let me look back at it because I think I missed something. So, but they're all against this, and then by having that "you'll never walk alone" at the end, he's appealing to the roots of this club and what makes so great, the mythos of Liverpool, of the city, the fans, and the idea that of the solidarity of the fans with the team. So
right.
I personally really like this. I personally really like this statement from him. Even though I'm not a big Liverpool fan or even a fan of Jordan Henderson as a person, or not as a person. He's a good guy, but I personally don't like his attitude. But yeah.
Okay. But the point is, like, he that's a great way to handle it, honestly, what he's done.
Yeah.
And then I think on top of that, just I feel like this is a question that's kind of has to be asked, because again, this is from a casual standpoint. You're the one who's way more versed on this stuff, way more hardcore. I feel like there are definitely people, to get the casual people to care more about this, you gotta kind of be like, okay, what does Messi think of this? What does Ronaldo think of this? What do, all these top tier players think of this? Because, they're still involved in this too, in some way, shape, or form.
See, here's the thing though, is right, like I said, Juventus, so you said Messi, Ronaldo, and who else? Or was it
just a bunch of top tier players, there's still a list that goes on, but those are the names people are going to recognize.
So like I mentioned before, or as we've seen like here, Barcelona, who is the employer of Messi, they said that they are going to double down on this. So it makes sense that Messi himself would not really be saying anything about this because Barcelona, as of yet, have not officially pulled out this project. And Messi, as unfortunate as it is, anything he says, or it's both as good and as bad as it is, everything he says carries a ton of weight, no matter how small or big it is. Everything he says is like, it causes like shockwaves across the league.
Right.
It makes sense that Barcelona particularly are being very careful about who can say what. And so that's part of it as well. Juventus is the same sort of thing. Like we already saw, Juventus is not pulling away from this. They're not done with it.
These are the two teams that are like doubling down on this. Again, we have like Atletico Madrid, they are in the neutral terms of this. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
But there's still a bunch of other players out there that, who hold weight in their voices and stuff. And you have to ask, well, like, what are they saying on this and stuff? Like, well, also, because I feel like if you got like a named player and they spoke out against it, like even though he's in retirement, let's say Beckham came out and just like denounced the ESL.
No, he did.
Okay. So yeah, that would pull in a lot more casual people to suddenly be aware of this.
No, yeah, he absolutely did. And then so, what you're alluding to about players talking about this is that like, so Jordan Henderson, who I was talking about before, he actually made a tweet talking about how he actually suspended his connection with a PR firm that handles his Twitter account in order to be able to actually tweet this out. Yeah. And so, what that reveals is, and also what is generally true, is that many of these players are not actually sort of in charge of what they can say on their social accounts, right? They usually have advisors, lawyers, or a PR firm that's working with them to see like what can get them the most engagement, what is like the most acceptable things they can say, and then like what are the like limits of what they can say. So Jordan Henderson, for example, he had to go out of his way to suspend a connection he has that is profitable for him, and to ensure that he doesn't get in trouble with the club, in direct defiance against his employer, right? So
Yeah.
But that's not something every player can or is willing to do. Like there are many players probably who have not said anything that are against the idea, but they will probably lose. They're probably afraid of being at risk for losing their sort of security because these footballers
Yeah.
they're making so much money. They don't, and it makes sense. They don't want to risk losing that sort of security.
Yeah.
Like for example, players actually do have to worry about that a little bit.
No,
Like
I
team,
get that. I get that.
yeah. So that's
But it's
part of the
like
reason.
but it's like again, it's like they also carry so much power. So and I get it why they may not be saying as much because it's literally they have to jump through hoops and hurdles just to even say something.
Yeah,
But it still has to be addressed. Like, what are these players thinking? What are they saying? All that stuff.
yeah. I mean, like, I totally agree. Like, I definitely think, like, I would say, like, if Messi, like when this was initially reported, like, and this is just me kind of like joking, but also being kind of serious. If Messi had said, like, let's say, like Messi on the 18th when this was announced, he'd been like, no, I don't like the Super League. It's not going to happen. I won't play for Barcelona if the Super League happens. Like guaranteed, I will never play for Barcelona ever again if they go into the Super League.
Yeah.
Barcelona would have probably immediately withdrawn from that, right?
Yeah,
So
and had he done that voice, had he had the ability for that voice,
yeah,
and even if Barcelona didn't listen to him, the fans would have definitely listened to him
yeah,
on that.
yeah. Because like, this is not me. This is not a jab towards Barcelona, but many Barca fans are Messi fans too, right?
Yeah.
Like, so like, if the club's goals are not aligned with probably one of the someone who's considered the greatest player of our time and also like an icon for Barcelona, if the club's ambitions do not match his like Messi's like approval or his consent, it's it's not going to turn out well. Like
Right,
it's going to get
exactly.
a huge amount of backlash.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, there is a certain level and power these players hold. Like these
Yeah,
named players.
absolutely, yeah. And which is why I'm glad that at least players like Jordan Henderson, who's actually like a captain, he's not selling the most jerseys or whatever. It's like as a player, but like he actually has a voice, and as the captain of the team, he can actually make his voice heard, obviously. And I totally agree with you. Like as much as I would love for it, I would definitely love for more of the players to openly condemn this. I would absolutely love for Ronaldo to, go out and say, I'm not, Juventus, this is really wrong. I don't think we should. I believe that we should be playing not just for international markets, but also for the fans in Turin as well and in Italy. I would love that, obviously. That would be fantastic. But yeah, no, honestly, but I'd say we've covered a lot of ground here. I think I do want to end this off with a quote from Martin Einstein, who is he is a Spanish-speaking reporter from ESPN. Um, he says, "To get young people closer to the game of soccer, you don't have to change it. If not, do exactly that. Get them closer. Better schedules, better ticket prices, and let the clubs open their doors to the fans. In the old days, children were allowed to watch training sessions and be closer to their role models. I don't think that, in order to save or in order to keep this sport alive, you have to, go to use extra measures. Just connect with more of the fans. The fans are already invested in the product. Just let them get closer to, their teams and their players, and that will naturally come. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's basically all I wanted to talk about. Do you have any thoughts to close out the segment?
I mean, it's like I can I totally have like changed my mind on this. Like, I will definitely again, going from a surface level to understanding the details behind this, I definitely say this ESL is a bad idea.
Yeah,
Like, it is just a bad idea incarnate, and I'm honestly disappointed Barca is doubling down on this. By extension, Madrid, because they are directly connected to Perez. So
yeah,
the fact that like three and a half, let's say 3.5 teams are still kind of thumbing this
yeah,
idea,
yeah.
like it's just not a good look for them in my head. It's just, this should not have been done, and I think you can't blame the pandemic for it.
Yeah, and that's also like we'll close it off in this. I don't think we should necessarily applaud these teams for pulling out because they agreed to it in the first place, right? Like
Yeah.
they agreed to it. They would have gone through with it if they hadn't gotten the backlash. They don't deserve any credit. They were going to effectively create a huge problem and even more of a void between the top and bottom teams. But Zach, I really want to thank you for agreeing to be on board with this topic for me because this is something I really wanted to talk about.
Yeah,
Man.
yeah,
So
of course, of course. Like it makes sense what exactly we're tackling here, looking at. So
yeah.
you know.
And hopefully, for the viewers, hopefully you enjoy this because I know this is a bit of a different episode because we usually talk about things more in pop culture and sort of anime, music,
Yeah.
video games, stuff like that. So hopefully this is a bit of a good change of pace. And hopefully it still kind of holds your interest. And but yeah, again, thank you so much, Zach, for coming on and sort of agreeing to this. And hopefully you learned a bit more because like
Yeah,
I
no
know
problem. Yeah.
I know you still love soccer, but you say you're still like a bit of a casual fan now, as you say.
Yeah. Oh, very
Yeah,
much so. But yeah, thanks for taking the lead on this and like helping me understand exactly what it is we're breaking down.
Absolutely. And as long as I've helped you understand a bit more, then that makes me a little bit more happy. But again, thank you so much, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this different bit of a podcast. Yeah, we really hope you enjoy it. We'll probably be back with a bit more of a familiar topic, but we'll see for that. But yeah, thank you guys again for tuning in. When will the next episode be? Who knows? Because it's unscheduled. Thank you guys again for tuning in, and we'll see you all later.
All right, bye, guys.